Bear down, Bears fans. We are asking the question today: how will Shane Waldron use Caleb Williams in his first year? And Dan Orlovsky from ESPN has a pretty hot take on this, giving us an idea of what the team's going to look like with Caleb Williams at the helm and Shane Waldron being the guiding light that runs this offense. And by the way, as an offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron has shown an ability to adapt to the style of the players in which he is coaching, which is contrary to what we saw with Luke Getsy going into last season as he tried to turn Justin Fields into something that he was not, leaving us as a team that continued to struggle to score points from that regard. Clearly, Justin Fields not that guy. Could not play a different type of game than what we were currently seeing. So, by far the most important marriage the Chicago Bears have going in the 2024 season is Caleb Williams and Shane Waldron. Believing his experience at working with quarterbacks was very, very good. Shane Waldron was brought in to oversee the development of whomever they ended up drafting as number one. That, of course, ended up being Caleb Williams. Was a big opportunity for a young coach and most probably will elevate him if he's successful into the number one next man up when it comes to head coaching jobs. So we probably shouldn't get used to Shane Waldron. I have a sense that he's probably that Caleb Williams is going to make him look good, and he's going to make Caleb Williams look good, and that's going to lead probably to a head coaching job at some point pretty quickly. Waldron also knows how to develop a rookie, and he knows that it's challenging, but it comes down to finding out what Williams is capable of doing and crafting the scheme around those strengths. At the same time, Waldron will want to keep a certain identity with his offense so everybody is on the same page. Former NFL quarterback Dan Orlovsky explored this new partnership. He sees one style of offense that could be perfect for them, and it will involve heavy doses of play action with Williams using his gifted accuracy to attack the middle of the field. Offenses that can operate in that area of the field tend to find more success than others. Chicago should know this well. Over the past 3 years with Justin Fields at quarterback, the Bears routinely weren't able to find much success over the middle. This was because of the chaotic action that happened around that area. Reading where defenders are or will be is very difficult, and Justin Fields was not very good at that. It's why people always talk about quarterbacks needing faster processing speed. A good way to ease the burden on them is through play action, which pulls the linebacker and safeties closer to the line of scrimmage. If Shane Waldron does take this approach, it could mean a very big year for tight end Cole Kmet, who will be one of the primary targets across the middle. The same could also be said for Keenan Allen, who figures to assume the role of slot receiver. Once William gets them established with repeated completions, defenses will have to shift coverages to counter. That will leave DJ Moore and Roma Dunze one-on-one on the outside, just like he did with DK Metcalf in Seattle. And you can guess what happens after that takes place. Going to be a good season, going to be a good year if this blueprint works out and if the Bears can handle it the way that we're talking about right now. But let's move on here because the stadium saga, of course, is taking another twist. The Bears have said this, and Arlington Heights Mayor Tom Hayes just issued a statement. Says we've worked very hard to come to an agreement with the school districts that I think the Bears can be comfortable with, and that's being communicated to the Bears, and that's what we're discussing now. So I feel very comfortable that should the Bears re-engage with us and continue to explore the Arlington Park site, that the road is going to be much easier than we found in the past few months. Now, the tax bill on the property is $7.9 million, but the Bears are only willing to pay 4.3. There has to be a compromise in between at some point. The Bears were willing to pay 4.3 million, and talks seem to die out. Arlington Heights is now coming with a new proposal because the Bears moving to the city, of course, doesn't appear to be working out. I feel really good that we've presented a proposal to the Bears that they can feel comfortable with, and we've communicated that to them, and they have responded, and discussions are continuing. I feel very hopeful about where things are, and I've always said that. Ultimately, I think the Bears will find that Arlington Heights is the best site for them. Arlington has gotten some new help with their pitch. The Bears aren't going to get what they want from the city of Chicago. The Bears hope the state of Illinois would give them tax dollars to help build the facility, but J.B. Pritzker has expressed reluctance in that notion, and that opened the door for Arlington Heights to step back in and make another pitch. So that pitch seems to be going a lot better at this point. Now, could the Chicago Bears just be playing a game of chicken with the state? I don't think so, because I don't think the state of Illinois really wants to give the money to Chicago, and certainly not for an athletics team that isn't going to benefit the downtown community. And I don't mean a disrespect to the Chicago Bears in that regard, but people who are in the downtown area are already in the downtown area. People that are traveling for the game are minimal, and most people are not contributing to that downtown economy for the Bears game. They're driving in, they're driving home. If it were moved to Arlington Heights, I mean, I don't know how that changes anything, but it is a realization that, perhaps it's just too expensive to be downtown for a team that really needs to have more room to run, more facility, and a much bigger exposure, if you will. And look, there's a lot of teams that are not sitting in their downtown cities anymore. A lot of teams have moved to the suburbs. So this would just be another example of a team, still Chicago, despite that it says Arlington Heights. You guys know it. You see a map. So we'll see how this all plays out over the next little while. Also, we have started, by the way, and I did one this morning. I'm not sharing it with you, but I did a mock draft this morning because we've already started. And it's so early for a mock draft to know the projection of where the Chicago Bears are going to end up. But, as we get towards the end, we will do one of these quick mock drafts to kind of give you guys an idea of what we're looking for. But the idea here is that with the 2025 pick, we're looking at the Bears being somewhere in that 16 to 19 to 21 sort of range for selections going into it. And Matt Miller released a 2025 mock draft where he has Chicago selecting Georgia edge rusher Michael Williams with the 17th overall pick. And really, when you get it into that position, one of them has 17th overall pick. The Pro Football Focus that we use for our generator that we used before, they have them as the 19th overall pick. So there is a contingent here that certainly thinks that the Bears are a playoff contender because they'll be in the bottom half of the draft. Now, if that is the case, then what we're talking about is Michael Williams clocks in at 6'5", 265 pounds, and he's a junior right now, and he knows how to play inside and outside. This is exactly what the Bears are looking for, both in size, weight, and experience. He has 9 sacks in 2 seasons of rotational work, and if he's good this season full time, then they could end up being a top 10 draft pick by the time this is over. But he's versatile in the defensive line. He's considered one of the top edge rushers in the 2025 draft class, and he might just be falling into the Bears' laps. Although he's got a long way to go to prove himself for the 2024 season, but it seems like this would be one of those guys that will be on the radar all year long. So be looking out for Michael Williams to pop up on the Chicago Bears radar. Also, fantasy football is now projecting that Caleb Williams is going to be a fantasy football star. The Carolina Panthers made Bryce Young the first pick in the 2023 draft, but the organization hardly placed the Alabama star in a great position. The Panthers were coming off a 7-10 season. Thought it was a good idea to rely on former Philadelphia running back Miles Sanders, and the receiving core lacked depth outside of Adam Thielen, who was 33 years old at the time. The Panthers struggled and averaged a paltry 13.9 points per game and only won twice as their quarterback struggled. Now, Chicago Bears watched this drama unfold since they had acquired Carolina's number 1 pick, and the Bears made Caleb Williams, of course, the first pick in the 2024 draft, and they've placed they put him in a very, very good position. Now, DeAndre Swift came around, Roshan Johnson and Khalil Herbert are still there. They brought in Keenan Allen. We've still got DJ Moore. drafted Roma Dunze. We've got Cole Kmet. We brought in Gerald Everett. There's a litany of new weapons for any quarterback. Despite each franchise relying on a number one pick, the Bears look nothing like the Panthers. One could note that the Bears look nothing like many of the teams that had a number one overall pick. And not a Bears quarterback has ever thrown for 4,000 passing yards, which is now going to be a goal, or had a 30 touchdown season. This is something that it looks like Caleb Williams capable of doing because of how he's been. And only 13 Bears have ever achieved over 1,000 yards receiving in a season. Jerry Rice alone achieved that more than 13 times, and Keenan Allen has done it 6 times. So very interesting how when you look at the ground and pound sort of game for the Chicago Bears, now we're looking at Caleb Williams. And what most people are saying is fantasy managers are certainly going to invest heavily into a couple of different people. They're going to Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, and Josh Allen. These guys are statistical monsters, and they score a lot of points. But rookies are inherently dangerous to rely on. But Williams offers a certain pedigree that young passers can't match. For example, you cannot compare him to Justin Fields. There's two different players with two different skill sets. Williams has an elite arm. He has velocity and accuracy on short passes and down the field, in the pocket, and on the move. He's mobile, coachable, and shouldn't be overwhelmed at the NFL level, which is far different than what Justin Fields ended up being. Some fantasy managers will not want to invest in Caleb Williams, but this is probably going to be a mistake. Houston, Texas had plenty of playmakers, and look what they did with CJ Stroud. So, new Bears offensive coordinator Shane Waldron is a smart and lucky man with a talented offense. The Bears fans would just take confidence at this point, but they look really good on paper. Keenan Allen caught 108 passes last season. Roma Dunze caught 92 catches. DJ Moore and Cole Kmet had big seasons last year. DeAndre Swift also ran for over 1,000 yards. There are going to be a lot of offensive weapons on this team. Some of this comes down to each manager's fantasy league structure and strategy. So you never know how this is going to play out. But I know, isn't that funny? So this looks like this really looks like Caleb Williams probably certainly don't want to pick him number one on your team. Like that would be nonsense. Nobody picks a quarterback number one anyway. But the point is, I think Caleb Williams probably going to shock and surprise a lot of people before the defenses, quote unquote, figure him out. Now, moving on here, we have one more. And this one is Justin Fields' departure from the Chicago Bears could ignite a breakout season from this player. And that player is, mathematically speaking, one that I've been a fan of. You guys have not been nearly as much a fan of the guy, but Braxton Jones. Chicago Bears' new look here. Sam Monson from Pro Football Focus listed 5 offensive line candidates in line for a breakout season, and one of the players that he listed was Braxton Jones. The way that he breaks this down is very, very simple. He says that Braxton Jones' improvement is coming because of Justin Fields' departure. And he says this, Braxton Jones was not helped by the play of Justin Fields, even if he was occasionally bailed out on individual plays. Fields could certainly escape the occasional quick pressure, but he was also the architect of a lot of pressure and held onto the ball longer than any other player in the game, which stressed the protection in front of him. With a new quarterback behind him, Jones may look significantly better in year 3 and will hopefully be healthy once again, showing a true ceiling of what he can become at this level. And by the way, it should be pointed out, we're not talking about it right now, but it should be pointed out that not only did we see this, but Tevin Jenkins' contract was up at the end of the season, and the Bears, his agent reached out to the Bears and said, we'd like to work on an extension. And the Bears were not interested in an extension. Now, Tevin Jenkins played 397 pass snaps last season and gave up 17 pressures. That is a lot. And in fact, let me give you the numbers that this ended up being. Just this was incredibly um, telling. They want to do the extension, but here's the numbers. Okay. He played 397 pass block snaps and it had 17 pressures on the quarterback. And you have to ask yourself, how much of that is him? How much of that is Justin Fields? That is a fair question that you can ask. But for context, Miami guard Robert Hunt just signed a lucrative free agent contract with Carolina. He played 376 snaps in pass blocking and only allowed 5 pressures. Chris Lindstrom from Atlanta played 606 pass blocking snaps and allowed 15 pressures. So with double the amount, he had less pressures. And with the same amount, somebody else had way fewer pressures. So what Greg Gabriel said about this is that, Jenkins is going to have to work on his pass protection. And, it's not just going to be Caleb Williams. It's not going to be the transition from Justin Fields to Caleb Williams. It's going to make him shine. He's going to have to step up a little bit more than he did last season. Again, 17 pressures is a lot, but let's go back and let's look at this same thing. Tevin Jenkins and Braxton Jones both gave up a significant amount of pressures. And on one side, we're looking at, well, they're going to be much improved because we don't have the same guy who holds on to the ball forever. So this is probably going to turn both of those guys into big time stars. And the question at this point will be, is this a mistake to let Tevin Jenkins go out there and test the market, which I think is what the Bears are probably going to end up doing. So that's what it looks like. But we don't know. Again, we have no idea at this point yet. But I do know those statistics do not sound great for Tevin Jenkins, despite the fact that the Bears, again, were the number 1 rushing offense in the NFL. So, he is a great run blocker. So maybe we'll see something good happen. And then finally, in closing this out, Kiranmagaji, we had a story up saying that, this guy needs to really, really, really be ready. He needs to be ready for whatever it is that's happening for this next upcoming season. So, and most people are saying this, look, Tevin Jenkins, Nate Davis, Braxton Jones have all had significant problems. They've all had significant issues. So he's going to have to be ready. He's one of those under the radar kind of guys. He was selected number 75 out of Yale. He's an Ivy League kid, very sharp, very wise. He's the top left tackle in the Ivy League, which might not mean much. I mean, it might not mean much, but he is a big guy. He is motivated. He is playing for his hometown team. He played high school ball at Hinsdale, and this is his homecoming. So we've got Braxton Jones. We've got Darnell Wright. If either one of them struggle, Darnell Wright probably not going to struggle. That's not who we're really talking about when we say this. It is Braxton Jones that we're talking about when we say this. Now, if Braxton Jones comes along very nicely and Darnell Wright as well, Braxton Jones probably becomes trade bait, and we start to bring along Kiran. However, the other part is, again, Tevin Jenkins is injury prone. Nate Davis is injury prone. Braxton Jones is experienced at guard and could offer some relief in the event of something catastrophic in the guard position, giving Kiran an opportunity to play. So it is going to be imperative for him to be ready. Even though he was taken in the 3rd round, there are some issues, of course, when you're coming from the Ivy League to the NFL, no matter what anybody tells you. When you're coming from Division II to the NFL, you're going to struggle, just like Tyson Bagent did. When you're coming from Yale, you're going to struggle a little bit. Doesn't matter how smart you are. This is about athleticism, and this is about your ability to make those plays and make those moves. And look, you're not facing elite competition as an Ivy League school. You're facing disciplined and good competition, generally speaking, with Ivy League schools. So if he matches up very well, if he is everything that we think he is, then this is going to cause a big change in that offensive line. But for the moment, I guess we have to say that the offensive line continues to be a little bit unsettled, despite that we really, I think, have our starting lineup. I think we do have Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright, Tevin Jenkins and Nate Davis, and then I think the starting center at this point still Ryan Bates, maybe Coleman Shelton. I think either one of those guys are going to be fine in the position. But I do think that should something arise with Nate Davis and he's not ready to perform, or if there is an issue with Nate Davis, then the next logical move at that point is Ryan Bates at right guard, Coleman Shelton in the center position. And then we start looking at Kiran. Can Kiran start to create some depth at the tackle position, thereby leading to a move to the inside from Braxton Jones? In fact, to replace Nate Davis, maybe, much less Tevin Jenkins. There's a lot of different options here, but again, that would cause an unsettling in the offensive line. It would make that that would turn this into an experimental season, and that's going to affect my 13-4 prediction, which I'm going to continue to leave out there and continue to make as far as that goes. But to give you guys an idea, this is one of the earliest. This is gonna be one of the earliest ones that you're gonna see. Okay, I'm gonna pop it up on the screen for you, and it's early. We're way early, but this is what it looks like right now. Doing a 7-round fast draft, taking the Chicago Bears. The estimated pick for the Chicago Bears, number 19 right now. So this is what it looks like, and then we're of course we're looking to reject everything here. From what I gather here, as you look down this list, I don't see a lot of quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are at a premium, so I think we're going to end up seeing a lot of quarterbacks start to kind of make their way in here. But Abdul Carter with the number 2 overall pick. You've got Luther Burden from Missouri. You've got Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame. Carson Beck, the quarterback from Georgia, as the number 1 overall. We got a couple more edge rushers: James Pierce from Tennessee, Nick Skirton from Texas A&M, and Deion Walker, defensive tackle from Kentucky out there, and Mason Graham from Michigan. So when we get to this point, then we're not even looking at on the radar here, looking at defense, assuming that the Chicago Bears are going to be going for defense. You do have Michael Williams out here as the number 36 overall. If we were to take him, let's hold off for just a second here because we've got Ole Miss, Princely Umanmielen. I don't know how to say that name. Then we've got Dennis Sutton. So we've got a couple of big edge rushers that are going to be out here and available next year. Let's just assume we're going to go with the best available, and we're going to take Princely. We take that, and then guess what? We got the first pick of the second round. So again, we're going to get some. We're still going to get our guy. If we get our guy here, that's going to be Michael Williams. Now we just picked up 2 edge rushers. Now it's time to really start to fill in the blanks. We're looking at the defense. That's the focus, right? We're probably going to need a wide receiver at some point. We'll probably reach a little bit down to get a wide receiver. And the reason for that is because it is my opinion that Keenan Allen is not the future of the Bears franchise. It will be somebody else. So we've taken 2 edge rushers and a defensive tackle so far. We're into round 3. We're definitely going to pick up a safety. And then from there, still just kind of looking around at best available play. And by the way, we have no concept and no context of who the best players are in this draft at this point. We're just kind of looking at it preseason, making ourselves a little bit of a guess here. We're going to be looking for, I would take a linebacker because Tremaine Edmonds is prohibitively expensive. And I just don't see how we end up holding on to a $23 million middle linebacker. It seems like something where we would move either Jack Sanborn or TJ Edwards over and get a new Mike Sam or Will. In my estimation, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm a moron like anybody else. But it just seems to me that that's an expensive price to pay for that position, despite the fact that I like Tremaine Edmonds, but I like TJ Edwards better. And TJ Edwards was the guy, you know what I mean? So now We're going to need, do we need more cornerbacks? I think we're really good on cornerbacks. I don't think we have any concerns or worries on cornerback. I think we need to continue to focus on defensive tackle. That brings in Alfred Collins. Again, we do have to reach out at this point, and we have to start looking for a wide receiver, or somebody, or Khalil Herbert, obviously going to be gone. So we'll have to talk about that one as well. But let's go with Andrew Armstrong, Arkansas wide receiver. Would that be good? I don't. You know what? Xavier Restrepo. You know what? I'm gonna go with the Miami guy. I don't know if he's any better than the Arkansas guy. I'm just gonna go because I feel more comfortable with a Miami wide receiver than I do anything else. And then going to need some kind of replacement for Mercedes Lewis. So Kyle Morlock from FSU. And there we have it. What does it look like? Very simple draft. Not a whole lot of action to it, but we got 8 picks here. We got Princely Umanmielen, edge rusher from Ole Miss. Michael Williams, edge rusher from Georgia. Dante Corleone, defensive tackle from Cincinnati. Jeffrey Bassa, safety from Oregon. Francisco Mayoaga, Maui Goa, linebacker from Miami. Alfred Collins, defensive tackle from Texas. Xavier Restrepo, wide receiver in Miami. And then a tight end, Kyle Morlock from Florida State. So that's how it plays out. That's what it looks like. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. It is time for me to go. You guys have a good day. Remember to bear down and fuck Green Bay.